Hey internet friends, here on this channel we've been cataloging the strange happenings of our world for some time now. Within the span of the past year, one of the world's largest ships jammed up the Suez Canal for nearly a week. The Suez Canal being one of the world's most important trading routes. The price of fertilizers for crops have hit an all-time high. Bill Gates became the largest farmland owner in the United States. World leaders announced impending food shortages due to the war in Ukraine, with Russia and Ukraine making up more than 30% of the global wheat market, and they're considered the breadbasket of Europe. Followed by reports of the bird flu in the United States over the past month, forcing farmers to kill millions of egg-laying poultry. All of these aforementioned incidents have driven up the price of items at your grocery store. But now we shift our focus to the most recent series of strange events contributing to this price hike and potential shortage. Wondering, is it all a coincidence or something more? In some ways, it's like the ship getting stuck in the Suez was just the start, just the beginning of all these recent supply chain issues. And really, it's only escalated from there. In the last 6 months, around 20 US food processing facilities have burned down. I'm gonna lay them out on a timeline for you so we can look at the data and decide for ourselves if something is going on here or if there's really nothing to see, we can just move along. January 12th, 2021, Fayetteville, Illinois. The Deli Store Corporation, a processor of deli meat for military and commercial use, was destroyed by fire. No details on how the fire started. April 11, 2021. A cooker at the plant caught the whole Tyson poultry plant on fire. It went up in flames. July 26, 2021. Memphis, Tennessee. A 3-alarm fire breaks out at the Kellogg's cereal plant. Reports say fire started in the rice dryer. August 2nd, 2021, Huntsville, Alabama. Fire damages Tyson-owned feed ingredients plant. The poultry meal plant received significant damage in a fire that was said to be sparked by animal byproducts and grease. August 24th, 2021, Patax Meat Products in Cobb County, Georgia. A fire broke out at the factory, causing severe damage. I've actually been to the retail store many years ago. It's a community staple, but it was a total loss. September 13th, 2021, Grand Island, Nebraska. The headline reads, 5-alarm fire at JBS beef plant. The Grand Island Fire Department reported that the roof was on fire around 10 p.m. that night. October 20th, 2021, Tar Heel, North Carolina. A fire at the Smithfield Foods plant, allegedly started by an employee named Latasha Biddle, who set fire to the brake area. Well, she came back in 2 days later with a hammer and vandalized cars, screaming about how she was going to burn down the plant and shoot the place up before fleeing. She eventually turned herself in on an unrelated charge. November 29th, 2021, Scotts Township, Pennsylvania. The headline reads, fire erupts at a meat processing facility in Lackawanna County. No further details. December 13th, 2021, San Antonio, Texas. $100,000 of fire damage occurred to a food processing plant where a cooler had caught fire. So now we're getting into 2022, January 14th, LeCompte, Louisiana. A fire started at the Cargill Nutrena feed mill in Louisiana and burned for 12 hours. Reports of explosions seen and heard. January 31st, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. A fire tore through a fertilizer plant on the night of January 31st and continued into the next day, forcing thousands living near the plant to evacuate their homes and a university to cancel classes. Every household within a 1-mile radius was asked to evacuate because of the high chance of explosion. More than 6,500 residents were in the evacuation radius. All right, now here is where it gets interesting. If you look at the data starting in February 2022, you're going to start to notice a trend of these fires occurring more and more frequently, which is why I wanted to lay all this out on a timeline anyway. On February 3rd, Mouston, Wisconsin. Wisconsin River Meats warehouse was engulfed in fire, the old portion of the building a total loss. No details on how the fire was started. February 16th, Claypool, Indiana. The LDC said that a fire had broken out at the largest U.S. soybean processing and biodiesel plant. The cause of the fire was cited as undetermined. February 22nd, Hermiston, Oregon. A major explosion at a potato chip factory in Northwest Oregon resulted in 6 injuries, and they reported that it could hurt the supply of chips to the West Coast. Local news reports that a portable natural gas boiler exploded, causing a dramatic fire. And local firefighters said that it was the largest blaze in that area that they'd seen in a decade. March 17th, Jonesboro, Arkansas. A Hot Pockets and frozen food Nestle plant was shut down after a fire broke out in the afternoon. Firemen battled it all night, but eventually abandoned the fight because of structural concern. March 18th, Plainfield, Indiana. I wanted to include this in here too, like I've included fertilizer factory stories as well, because it all seems related. So this was a major fire at a Walmart distribution center, and inside were a variety of items, food, clothing, electronics, This was such a tremendous fire that burned for days, and no one knows what caused it. 200 firefighters worked together to put it out, and these were firefighters from 30 surrounding agencies that responded to this fire. March 24th, Belfast, Maine. It took firefighters from 10 surrounding communities to control the blaze that took over the McCrum potato processing plant. April 13th, Conway, New Hampshire. Firefighters battled a fire at East Conway Beef and Pork for 16 hours, managed to rescue the cattle even though the meat market was destroyed. April 19th, this is another one in Oregon at the headquarters of Azure Standard, the nation's premier independent distributor of organic and healthy food. It was destroyed by fire overnight. There were no injuries. The cause of the fire is unknown. April 20th, Leoti, Kansas. The Nutrient Agricultural Solutions fertilizer plant caught fire. No further details. April 21st, Covington, Georgia. A plane crashed near the General Mills plant, which makes cereal. It's a global food company. There were no survivors of this plane crash. Not a lot of details are known about what happened. So that concludes the timeline. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts on this. I do have some lingering questions here, which led me to running a couple of searches to compare the number of plant fires, food plant fires year to year to see if this past year had an unusual amount or not. Are we focusing on this just because people are tweeting it? Are we focused? It was on Tucker Carlson. This question was brought up, and I wanted to know year to year, what it looked like. How many food plants in the United States burn down year to year? Is this an anomaly? So in 2019, this is our sample year in the United States, it would appear that there was a major fire at Newlywed Foods Factory in Chicago in April, and one at a Kansas Tyson Foods beef plant in August. So 2 food plant fires that are coming up in the search for 2019. So let's compare 2019 to this past year, not counting the fertilizer fires and the Walmart distribution center fire. On our timeline we just went over, I have listed 18 incidents of food plants on fire from January 2021 to April 21st, 2022 in this video. So let's go back to what I said in the beginning. We've got all these factors at play to cause food shortages and increased prices. So are we witnessing total happenstance and coincidence, or is it intentional? Are they trying to take down our food supply? Are they trying to sabotage our supply chain? And by they, who do we mean? The enemy from within or an enemy of a foreign variety? Listen, I don't claim to know all the answers, but I do see patterns. I can draw conclusions from data. And this whole thing really reminds me of Notre Dame, the Notre Dame fire incident, which I covered on my channel years ago, when the church burned for 9 hours and no cause was ever specified. But in reality, hundreds of other French churches had been attacked for the past few years in deliberate attacks, but hadn't drawn any attention. And those were churches. Those were cultural factories, not food factories. But it seemed apparent to me that France needed to, identify who was attacking, what their motives were, and then act on that information. But to my knowledge, they didn't. And that inaction is just so loud. And that's the same right here. Same for these food plants. Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland. The World Economic Forum's announcements for their 10-year outlook with the Great Reset saying we will all own nothing and be happy, that we'll eat bugs. BlackRock buying up all the real estate so we have a nation of renters. World leaders coming out saying there will be food shortages as war continues. It would have to be a tremendous coincidence for all of this to be happening at once. For me, it's clear as day what's happening. But what do you think, internet friends? I always look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel on Patreon. Bye!